Okay, so welcome back, everybody. Today we're diving into something pretty heady, a potential conflict brewing in northern Syria. Turkey and Kurdish forces,
Right.
not exactly, the best of friends, to say the least. We've got this article
Okay.
with like some really strong statements from German Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock. She's clearly worried, and I think
Yeah.
for good reason. She's basically saying that this could actually empower ISIS if it boils over.
It's a really interesting point, right? You wouldn't think that more conflict would lead to less ISIS,
Exactly.
but it's all about the dynamics on the ground. So if Turkey ends up in a full-blown conflict with the Kurdish forces,
hmm
those forces are going to have to divert their attention, their resources, everything away from fighting ISIS.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
So those guys can kind of, regroup and potentially even gain ground.
Makes a lot of sense. And Baerbock really emphasizes this whole ISIS angle. She's basically saying that the Kurdish forces have been absolutely instrumental in pushing back ISIS. Can you unpack that a little bit? Like, why are these Kurdish forces so effective against ISIS in the first place?
Sure. So a couple of things. First, they have the home field advantage, right? They know the terrain. They have these established networks within the local communities,
Right.
which is invaluable for intelligence and support. Second, they're incredibly motivated. They're fighting for their homeland, for their families, their very existence. You can't underestimate that kind of motivation. And third, frankly, they've just proven to be very capable fighters.
Gotcha. So they've got the skills, the knowledge, and the will to fight.
Exactly.
But, okay, so we've got that piece of it, right? But then we have this seemingly contradictory situation
Right.
where the U.S. is supporting the same Kurdish forces that Turkey wants to target. Like, how do we get to that point? That's a crazy situation.
Yeah, so it's definitely a complicated situation. And, a lot of this can be traced back to the fight against ISIS. So the U.S. saw these Kurdish forces as a valuable ally in that fight.
Yeah.
And they partnered with them, provided them with weapons, training, support, the whole nine yards. Turkey, on the other hand, sees things very differently. They view those same Kurdish forces,
Yeah.
specifically the YPG, the People's Protection Units, as an extension of the PKK.
Yeah.
And that's the Kurdistan Workers' Party, which Turkey considers, and I mean, a lot of Western nations do too, a terrorist organization. So for Turkey, this isn't about some regional power play. It's about national security. They're going after a group that they see as a direct threat.
Okay, so it's like they're stuck between a rock and a hard place.
Absolutely.
You've got this incredibly valuable ally in the fight against ISIS, but at the same time, you've got this NATO ally, Turkey, who sees those same forces as a major threat.
Yep.
What a mess.
It's a tough situation. There's no doubt about it. And Baerbock definitely seems to recognize that. She's not ignoring Turkey's security concerns. She specifically says that in the article.
Right, yeah.
But at the same time, she's really urging everyone to find a solution that doesn't involve more violence, especially not against the Kurdish population.
So, like, what would that look like? Does she offer any specific solutions, or is this just kind of like a general plea for peace?
Well, she doesn't go into a ton of specifics, to be honest, but she's emphasizing dialogue, de-escalation, maybe some intelligence sharing, between Turkey and those fighting ISIS,
Yeah.
maybe joint security operations that target specific threats, or, maybe even some form of political settlement that addresses Kurdish grievances within Syria.
Okay, yeah.
So there's got to be some way, right?
Got to be some way to thread this needle. But, man, that's a tight needle to thread.
Yeah.
All these competing interests, and, on top of that, the potential consequences of getting this wrong are just massive.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you're talking about the stability of the entire region.
Totally.
And even, potentially the global fight against terrorism.
Absolutely. So for you listening out there, this isn't just some, faraway conflict that doesn't really impact you. What happens in northern Syria really does have the potential to unleash a wave of instability that could impact us all. So here's something to really think about. Knowing what we know about the complexities and the potential consequences, what strategies could actually address Turkey's security concerns, but at the same time, safeguard the Kurdish population and prevent groups like ISIS from making a comeback? It's a question that doesn't have easy answers.
No, definitely not.
But one that I think is really worth our attention.
Absolutely.